I always knew I wasn't what my parents wanted. Growing up in the prestigious Hamilton family meant certain expectations. Expectations I could never quite meet. While my sister Madeline attended cotillion balls and charity galas, I spent my weekends volunteering at the local hospital, wearing scrubs instead of designer dresses. Honestly, Sophia, my mother would sigh, picking at my practical clothing with manicured fingers, how do you expect to maintain our family's social standing if you insist on dressing like the help? That particular criticism came during my senior year of high school, right before the annual Hamilton family Christmas card photo shoot. I stood in our marble-floored foyer, wearing my favorite blue sweater, the one I'd bought with my own money from my hospital volunteer stipend. I think I look fine, I said quietly, smoothing down the soft fabric. My sister Madeline swept down the grand staircase in a red Valentino dress, her dark hair perfectly styled. Oh my God, Mom, you can't let her wear that. The Ashworths and Blackwoods will see this photo. We'll be laughed out of the country club. Mom pressed her fingers to her temples. Sophia, please. Just go put on the Chanel dress I bought you. That dress cost more than 6 months of medical supplies for the children's ward, I protested. It's wasteful. Everything is always about that hospital with you, Madeline rolled her eyes. Newsflash, playing nurse with sick people isn't going to get you into our social circle. I looked to my father for support, but he was engrossed in his phone, probably checking the stock market again. He'd made his fortune in investment banking, building the Hamilton name into one of the most respected in our city's elite circles. The fact that his younger daughter preferred helping people to hunting social status was a constant source of disappointment. The photographer will be here in 20 minutes, Mom announced. Sophia, either change into something appropriate or... She let the threat hang in the air. I lifted my chin. Or what? Or don't bother being in the photos at all. I still remember how quiet the foyer got. Even Madeline stopped preening in the mirror to watch what I would do. Fine, I said finally. Take your photos without me. Sophia, Dad finally looked up from his phone, his voice carrying that familiar note of disappointment. Don't be difficult. I'm not being difficult, I replied, gathering my courage. I'm being myself. And apparently myself doesn't fit your image. Mom's face hardened. If that's your choice, then yes, you're right. You don't fit our image. Madeline, darling, let's have the photographer focus on you by the Christmas tree. And just like that, I was erased. Not just from the Christmas card, but from every family photo that followed. Graduations, holidays, charity events. I became the family ghost, present but never seen, at least not in any official capacity. The final straw came at my high school graduation. I'd finished as valedictorian, earning a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins University for pre-med. As I stood at the podium delivering my speech about the importance of giving back to the community, I spotted my family in the audience. Mom was scrolling through her phone. Dad was checking his watch. Only Madeline was paying attention, and that was just to smirk when I stumbled over a word. Later during the family photos, Mom pulled me aside. We'll take the photos in 2 groups, she said briskly. First the regular ones, then a few with you. For private keeping, of course. Private keeping? I echoed. Well, yes. The formal photos are for our social circle, for the club newsletter, for the society pages. You understand. I looked at my sister in her designer graduation gown, custom-made of course, at my mother's perfectly curated outfit, at my father's proud smile, a smile that only appeared when Madeline was by his side. Actually, I said slowly, I don't understand. And I don't think I want to be in any of the photos at all. Mom's relief was palpable. If that's what you prefer. That night I made a decision. If I didn't fit their image, I would build my own. One that would be impossible for them to ignore. Medical school was brutal, but I thrived. While Madeline was making headlines in the society pages for her endless string of wealthy boyfriends, I was publishing research papers and winning prestigious fellowships. Mom and Dad didn't come to my white coat ceremony. They were at Madeline's engagement party to some hedge fund manager. I threw myself into my studies, specializing in pediatric neurosurgery. The long hours and demanding work became my escape from the constant reminders of my family's rejection. The hospital became my home, my fellow doctors and nurses, the family I chose rather than the one I was born into. By 30, I was the youngest head of pediatric neurosurgery at Boston Children's Hospital. My research was revolutionizing treatment protocols. I had patents pending on surgical instruments I'd designed. But to my family I was still just Sophia, the disappointment who chose medicine over money. The society pages regularly featured the Hamilton family, Mom and Dad at charity balls, Madeline's lavish parties in their Hamptons mansion. Sometimes if you looked carefully at the edges of these photos, you could see an empty space where a second daughter should have been. I hadn't been to a family event in years when the invitation arrived. Madeline was hosting a casual dinner party at her new penthouse apartment. Casual in Hamilton terms meant only 100 guests and minimal ice sculptures. "You should come," Madeline said when she called. "Everyone's dying to hear about your job." He said the word like it was distasteful. "My job?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You mean my position as one of the top pediatric neurosurgeons in the country?" "Yes, that." She paused. "Just wear something nice, okay? Not those horrible scrubs." I almost declined, but something made me accept. Maybe it was curiosity about how they'd react to seeing me after so long. Maybe it was the desire to show them that their forgotten daughter had built something meaningful. I arrived at Madeline's penthouse wearing a simple black dress, expensive but understated. The doorman recognized my name but did a double take at my face. Clearly he was used to the other Hamiltons. Inside the party was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, illuminating New York's elite as they sipped champagne and discussed their latest acquisitions. Mom held court near the window, wearing what appeared to be this season's entire Gucci collection. Dad stood with his usual crowd of banking associates, probably plotting their next hostile takeover. "Sophia." Madeline's voice carried across the room. It actually came. "And you're wearing, oh." Her smile faltered as she took in my appearance. "What's wrong?" I asked innocently. "This dress is Versace. Isn't that approved for the Hamilton image?" "It's last season," she hissed. "And where are your accessories? Your jewelry? You look so plain." Before I could respond, Mom swooped in. "Sophia, darling," she air-kissed my cheek. "We weren't sure you'd make it, being so busy with your work." The way she said work matched Madeline's tone perfectly. Some things never changed. "Yes, saving children's lives does keep me rather occupied," I replied smoothly. "More champagne, anyone?" The evening proceeded exactly as I expected. Mom steered her society friends away from me, preferring to showcase Madeline's latest charity project, something involving designer handbags for underprivileged poodles. Dad barely acknowledged my presence, too busy bragging about Madeline's husband's recent promotion. Then came the photos. "Everyone gather round," Mom called out. "Harrison from Social Scene is here to capture the evening." I watched as my family assembled in their usual formation. Perfect smiles, perfect poses, perfect image. "Sophia," Mom said tightly, "perhaps you could help Harrison with his equipment?" And there was. Some things really never did change. But this time I smiled. Because what my family didn't know was that tomorrow, their perfect image was going to shatter. And I would be there to watch every moment. The call came at 3 a.m. just hours after Madeline's party. Dad had collapsed in his study, clutching his chest. A possible stroke, they said. He was being rushed to Metropolitan Hospital. My hospital. I was already there when the ambulance arrived, watching from the shadows as Mom stumbled through the emergency room doors in her designer heels, mascara streaking her perfectly made-up face. Madeline followed, still wearing her party dress, looking lost without a photographer to pose for. "I demand the best neurologist," Mom was telling the nurse. "Do you know who we are? We're the Hamiltons." The nurse, Sarah, who'd worked with me for years, maintained her professional composure. "The head of neurosurgery has already been notified, Mrs. Hamilton." "Well, where are they?" "We've been waiting for 10 minutes. I stepped out of the shadows. "I'm right here, Mom." The look on her face was worth every family photo I'd been cut from. She froze, designer purse slipping from her grasp. Madeline's mouth fell open in a most unladylike manner. "Sophia," Mom whispered. You work here?" "Not exactly," I replied, checking Dad's preliminary scans on my tablet. "I run this department. And based on these images, Dad needs emergency surgery." "Surgery?" Madeline's voice rose to a shriek. But you can't. I'm one of the top neurosurgeons in the country," I cut her off. The surname Hamilton might not appear in society pages next to my achievements, but I assure you in medical circles, it carries its own kind of weight. Mom seemed to be struggling to process this information. But, we need a specialist. Someone with experience. Mom, I interrupted, my voice firm. I am the specialist. I'm the one other hospitals call when they need help. I'm the one who developed the procedure we're going to use to save Dad's life. Now, I need you to sign these consent forms. Her hands shook as she took the clipboard. Sophia, we can talk later, I said professionally. Right now Dad needs surgery. As I turned to leave, Madeline grabbed my arm. Wait. How do we know you won't? I mean, after how we treated you. I looked at her hand on my arm, then into her eyes. Because unlike our family photos, Madeline, my integrity isn't just for show. The surgery took 6 hours. It was complex, delicate work. The kind I'd trained years for. The kind that had earned me respect in a field where respect had to be earned through skill and dedication, not social status and designer clothes. When I finally emerged from the operating room, Mom and Madeline were exactly where I'd left them, though significantly more disheveled. Mom's Gucci outfit was wrinkled, Madeline's perfect hair had fallen flat, and neither seemed to care about their appearance for once. He's stable, I announced. The procedure went well. We were able to stop the bleeding and repair the damage. He'll need extensive rehabilitation, but he should make a full recovery. Mom burst into tears. Real ones, not the photogenic kind she usually produced for social occasions. Madeline just stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Dr. Hamilton, a nurse approached with some forms. Should we move Mr. Hamilton to the Sophia Hamilton wing for recovery? Mom's head snapped up. The what? I signed the forms calmly. The new neurological wing. It was completed last month. But, it has your name, Madeline said slowly. Yes, I replied. That tends to happen when you donate $50 million to fund its construction. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom sank into a chair, her legs seemingly unable to hold her up anymore. 50 million, she whispered. Being a top neurosurgeon pays well, I explained. Plus, I patented several surgical instruments and procedures. Turns out saving lives is more profitable than saving face at country club events. But why didn't you tell us? Madeline demanded. Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Would it have earned me a place in the family photos? A seat at the dinner table? Or would it just have been another thing that didn't fit your image of what a Hamilton should be? Neither of them could meet my eyes. Mr. Hamilton's being moved now, Sarah announced. Dr. Hamilton, would you like to oversee the transfer? Yes, thank you. I turned to my mother and sister. You can see him in about an hour. The wing is on the top floor. You can't miss it, my name's on the wall. As I walked away, I heard Madeline whisper, Mom, what have we done? The next few days were a blur of medical procedures and awkward family interactions. Dad regained consciousness gradually, his recovery closely monitored by the best team of nurses and doctors. My team. When he was finally lucid enough to understand his surroundings, I was checking his vitals. He looked around the private room, taking in the state-of-the-art equipment and the view of the city from the top floor. Where am I? He asked, his voice rough. The Sophia Hamilton wing of Metropolitan Hospital, Mom answered from her chair. She hadn't left his side, her perfect appearance long forgotten in favor of hospital waiting room attire. Dad's eyes widened as he looked at me. Your wing. I nodded, adjusting his fore. Yes. Funded by your disappointing daughter who chose medicine over maintaining the family image. Sophia, he reached for my hand, his grip weak but insistent. I was wrong. We were all so wrong. I know, I said simply. Over the next few weeks, as Dad underwent rehabilitation in my wing, I watched my family's carefully constructed facade crumble. Mom stopped wearing her designer clothes to the hospital, instead opting for comfortable slacks and sweaters. Madeline canceled 3 charity galas to help with Dad's physical therapy. One afternoon, I found Mom staring at the wall outside Dad's room, specifically at the plaque detailing my medical achievements and contributions to the hospital. All these years, she said quietly, we were so focused on appearances, on what other people thought was impressive. We never saw what real accomplishment looks like. I finished for her. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Sophia. We were wrong about everything. Not everything, I corrected her. You were right about one thing. I didn't fit your image. I exceeded it. A week later, a new set of photos appeared in the society pages. Not the usual posed shots of charity events or country club gatherings, but something different. The headline read, "Hamilton Family Celebrates Life-Saving Legacy." The photos showed my father standing proudly, if still a bit shakily, beside the sign for the Sophia Hamilton wing. In another, my mother and sister were helping with a fundraiser for pediatric neurology research. And in the center there was a photo of all of us together, me in my white coat, my family finally seeing me, really seeing me for the first time. Dad recovered fully, though he retired from investment banking. These days he serves on the hospital's board of directors, focusing on making healthcare accessible to those who can't afford it. Mom traded her society luncheons for volunteer work in the pediatric ward. And Madeline, she went back to school. She's studying to become a nurse. The Hamilton name still carries weight in our city, but for different reasons now. Not for the parties we throw or the clothes we wear, but for the lives we help save. The society photographers still come around, but they're more interested in capturing the real moments. The grateful families, the recovering patients, the actual work being done. Last Christmas, when it was time for the annual family photo, Mom handed me a wrapped package. Inside was my old blue sweater. The one I'd worn all those years ago, the one that hadn't been good enough for the family image. "Wear this," she said softly. "It's who you are. And who you are is better than anything we ever imagined." So I did. The photo hangs in the hospital lobby now, right under my name on the wall. The Hamiltons, all of us together, no pretense, no perfect poses. Just a family who finally learned that true worth isn't about fitting an image. It's about creating your own legacy. Sometimes, during long surgeries or late-night rounds, I catch my reflection in the hospital windows. I see myself in my scrubs wearing that old blue sweater under my white coat, and I smile. Because sometimes being cut out of the picture just means you're meant to paint your own. And my picture? It's bigger than any family photo could ever be. It's written in the lives saved, the families healed, and yes, even in those golden letters on the hospital wall. A reminder that the best revenge isn't about getting even, but about rising so far above that they have to look up to see you. As for fitting the family image, well, sometimes the image has to change to fit you. And when it does, when the facades fall away and the real pictures emerge, you realize that the best photographs aren't the ones carefully posed and perfectly lit. They're the ones that capture the truth of who you really are. The Hamilton family still appears in the society pages occasionally. But now, instead of designer dresses and charity balls, the photos show something different. A family working together in a hospital wing named after the daughter they once tried to erase. And that, more than any carefully curated image, is a picture worth keeping.